Well, pleasant good morning, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of the PR Man and the Coach talking ball on the Ballfather podcast presented by Sports Keita. It's your man, Reggie Roberts, longtime NFL communications executive, and we are joined by our resident baseball aficionado, Mr. Chris Dimino from lovely, sunny, hot Atlanta. What's up, Chris? How you doing, man?
Actually, better than that. I'm down in almost sunny, very hot Florida. We're still down at the beaches. I should remember from my high school days, maybe even a college class, what type of clouds those are behind me. I think they're cirrus. Cumulus are a little bit puffier. These might be a little bit more the cirrus clouds, Reg. That's what I think I remember.
Well, listen, you deserve to be at the beach. Hopefully, Miss Carrie and the girls are having a good time, and you obviously get your time in before the madness starts. I tell you what, the only thing hotter than the beach are your Braves, how well they're playing. I mean, 57 games. I mean, they are playing out of their minds.
Reg, they went 24-4 with a 7-game winning streak, an 8-game winning streak, and a 9-game winning streak. So they lose. The 7-game streak goes away, and then they win yesterday for craps and giggles. They'll take the day off, and then they'll go down to Tampa, which it's so crazy. Look, I knew Tampa was going to be good, but 3 weekends in a row. Cincinnati, if you would have said on March 1st, what's that series? The next weekend, the Marlins, what would you have said? Tampa, you would have been looking forward to, but the idea that this could be a showdown of the two best teams in baseball, I'm not really sure the moons and the stars would have aligned that way. And I'll tell you this, in Cincinnati, they drew 129,000 in a 3-game series. In a park that's 21 years old, they set a record. Tampa doesn't do a lot of numbers except when the Yankees come in. I think this Braves series is going to push every one of these games 25,000 plus.
I think we'll get to our predictions later in the podcast, but I seem to think if everything sort of stays the way that you think it's going to stay, I'm thinking it would be a hell of a World Series. Braves and Rays. I mean, the Rays, as you and I've talked, are playing out of their minds. I thought at some point they hit a lull, they hit a speed bump, they got some guys hurt, but that just hadn't happened. They just keep winning.
Yeah, look. Certainly what the Braves have done in the last 5 years of turning this thing around. And it was bad around here for a couple of years. The last 5 years with Alex Anthopoulos and company, and quite honestly, the regime before that with a couple of the drafts were just phenomenal. And then you have guys who are starting in your rotation from the 2020 draft. You got a guy from the 2021 draft contributing as a starting pitcher. So that means you looked at the right guys, the mental makeup every bit as much as the physical makeup. What Tampa is missing, obviously, is the chip. They don't have the World Series yet. They've done everything right for a number of years, working it very differently than everybody else. It's not a hot commodity in the town that they're in. There's not a ton of money being poured into their roster. They're very, very good at the minor league level. I can make a case they're the best team in terms of preparing their guys to play Major League Baseball, and it starts from day one with them. The problem is, at the end of the day, Reg, you need horses. And I'm not really sure that they've really ever dealt in the horse world. It'll be interesting to see if they go get another starting pitcher, if somebody big is available. Whether it's Scherzer, Verlander. Look, the Mets have won 4 in a row, I think. So do they have visions of at least the wild card and getting in? And maybe they keep Verlander and Scherzer. Maybe the game changes by the trade deadline at the end of the month. But Tampa's going to be looking for a stud, I think, to try to push them to a place further than they've ever been in October.
Yeah, you talk about all the time. You were telling me once if Tampa Bay's director of scouting calls you, you hang it up. You say you hang up the phone.
He's about to fleece you. You're about to get hatted. You're going to have to explain something to your owner at some point 2 and 3 years from now, if not sooner, saying, how did that happen? Because they know yours as well as you know yours, which is really hard to do in baseball.
Yeah. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about, we got the All-Star break coming up. Big out in Seattle. Is it a thing? Is it a thing that the players really look forward to? The guys who didn't make the All-Star team, they go on vacation, they get 3 or 4 days to play golf. What's All-Star weekend now? What's it mean for the game, Chris?
It's funny. I think most everybody's in a position that makes them happy. The guys who don't make it get a chance to get away for a few days. If that means you're a family guy with a couple of kids, you get to be with the kids. If you're a single guy, you got a girlfriend, you get to go someplace if you want. But I still think there's this thing about being selected. And being voted in is a very big deal for most players. Look, there are times when guys might be dragging a little bit and they got a couple of nagging injuries and they kind of think, oh, geez, I'd rather just put my feet up. Because Monday, they make you do the whole press thing. Monday night, they really do expect and want you to be on the field for the home run derby. the good news with that is if you're a family guy, you get an opportunity to bring your family with you to bring you on the field. The home run derby is not necessarily a huge thing amongst, guys who aren't doing it. But I think for the night itself, to experience it, especially for first-time All-Stars or guys at the end of their career who make the All-Star game, because that might mean their kids are a little bit older and they understand not only what dad does for a living, but this night is a little bit more special. So you have that range of young families and guys who are a little bit older. I think everybody sort of ends up where they're supposed to be for this week.
Well, it's interesting. I saw where they announced the 8 guys who are going to be in the home run derby, and the guy that sort of got my attention was Pete Alonso. I didn't realize this, but I read somewhere where he won in 20.
Oh yeah,
20, we won in 20. No, 20. Was it? Let me get my notes here to make sure I got it right. He won it in 19. They didn't have it in 2020. He won it again in 2021, and he's hit 174 home runs in 3 derbies, which is the most ever. And here's the interesting part: he has a chance to tie it this week in Seattle. There's only one guy who's won it 3 times, and that's Junior Griffey. And he could tie in Seattle this weekend.
Do you remember the one year Griffey didn't want to do it? They basically shoved him out onto the field. He put his hat backwards and won. Look, Pete Alonso, and I say this with respect because I've known guys like Pete Alonso. I might have had a little Pete Alonso in me in my 20s. He's a meathead in this home run derby capacity. He wants to match. This is like he believes that this is a sign of, me hit ball. Oh, he's one of those guys.
Yeah, they call him Polar Bear Pete. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to do this. There are some guys who don't. There's, Ronald Acuna was asked. He said no. And Brian Snitker was happy. Look, the Braves were not going to stop anybody. I thought Matt Olson would have been a great choice to be in this thing. I don't know. I haven't been in town this week, but I don't know if he said no or not. He's going to the All-Star game. His swing absolutely is pretty enough to do some damage in something like this. But Ronald Acuna said, my goal is to play 162 games. It's not to win a home run derby. And there's a maturity with him now. And obviously the physical skills and the mental skills right now are just so peak. But I love the idea that he said no to this. This is, I don't know, is it a $200 trophy? Is it a $500 trophy? I don't know what it is. Pete Alonso wants to win it. Ronald Acuna, remember this, Reg, he wasn't on the field in 2021 when the Braves won the World Series. That means you feel a little bit left out. He missed the back end of that year. So he has a ring, but he doesn't have a ring. Home run derby doesn't mean anything to him this year.
Well, I think that speaks to who he is as a competitor. I mean, the guy.
It's better now.
Yeah. And he's without question, he's one of the top 5 players in the game. And I think that baseball's better when he's in it. The Braves are better when he's. I mean, so they need him. I applaud his thinking. Hey, they got this thing called the baseball draft coming up. I think it's what was it, Sunday? I think it's Sunday, July 9th. Anybody stick out in your mind? Top prospects? Anybody that we should kind of keep our eye on?
Yeah, look, it's easy. I don't claim to know a lot about the college, and I certainly don't know anything about the high school game. And they're doing this year to try to create TV around the All-Star game. They've moved the draft. It used to be 60 rounds, 40. I think it's 20 now. The only thing I will tell you is the kid from LSU is not a kid. He's a man. Paul Skeens, the pitcher that everybody knows about and talks about. I'm not sending him the rookie ball. He's coming right to my major league team. I'm not kidding about this. Why am I sending that guy to work? Now, I will say he threw a lot of innings. I don't know what his workout has been between now and then. I'm sure he's keeping himself in shape because he will have to report someplace. He looks like the most ready. I watched Steven Strasburg pitch in college. I watched Ben McDonald pitch in college. I watched Roger Clemens pitch in college. This guy, relative to what the game is today, 5 and dive, where I'm not looking for a guy to be a horse, 8 and 9 innings, I bring him right to my major league club. There's no doubt in my mind that whoever drafts him, if it's Pittsburgh, he's better than X amount of guys in their rotation and on their whole staff. Now, again, I worry about the arm because he's pitched a lot, but why would I go send him down a rookie ball to just make people look like children? He made the best college players look like children. I'm not sending him down to face high schoolers in rookie ball. I'm going to figure out if I give him a little bit of time in my system, that's great, but he's going to throw on the side. He's not going to throw in games, and I'm going to bring him up. I'm going to find out what it is I have. But I'll just tell everybody, look up, there's a cautionary tale. His name is David Clyde. He was the number 1 pick of the Texas Rangers in the early 70s, and it burned out. They used him to sell tickets at home, and it worked, but they basically ran a guy into the ground. The good news is baseball doesn't run guys into the ground anymore. 5 innings is enough. They're not looking for guys to go 8 and 9 just to prove that they're horses.
Let me ask you this. We're on with the PR man, the coach talking ball on the Ballfather podcast presented by Sports Keto. Um, you know, first half of the season, you've got one division where all five teams are over 500. I can't remember when the last time that happened. Talking about the AL East, and we obviously got to talk about my beloved Yankees.
Mhm.
They're third right now in a division where the Rays are 57. They got 57 wins. Second place, the O's, who I think are surprised, they've got 50 wins. The Yankees are third, 48 and 39. Blue Jays 46 and 40, which is respectable. And the Red Sox are in last place, but they're 44 and 43. You know, tell me what that means as far as how well those five teams have played, and who are you looking for in the second half? Who looks like that they could make a run?
I think the Yankees, the Judge thing really stinks. How it happened and the diagnosis and him being out this long does stink. It hurts that team. I would imagine I kind of like the Yankees if he gets back a little bit sooner instead of later more than Baltimore. Baltimore's fun. Again, a lot like Cincinnati, you go, I don't know how much I want to fight with these guys. The five teams in it, and look, it's almost like an old-fashioned wrestling thing. Remember where everybody gets in the ring and the last man standing, people are throwing people over ropes? Tampa's right now. Yeah, Battle Royale. Tampa's right now body pressing a few people to try to get him out. They just haven't completely thrown him off or out of the ring yet. The good news for teams in the American League East, and it works this way for the National League East, especially if the Mets, I don't know if they can do anything at this point, but for the wild card, the good news is the Centrals look like there's just going to be division winners and that's it. So in both leagues. So if you just say division winner and then nobody else, there's another spot available to somebody in the West or the East. So I think those teams in the East know that. Baltimore at the trade deadline is going to be interesting. They brought up not even all of them, I shouldn't say that. They brought up a couple of incredible prospects in the last 2 years with a couple of more still in the pipeline. I don't know if they want to block any of those guys, but the quick fix things, if somebody's available from teams that are out of it, see the White Sox, see the Royals. Salvador Perez, the catcher, to me makes sense for somebody, not for Baltimore because they got Rutschman, but he should go. Boston might end up having to be a seller if they just don't believe that it's going to work. So they're going to be interesting. So I think Baltimore becomes can they find a veteran who's got a ring? Somebody who's won before. I'm not big on the Yoda sitting in the middle of the room. Look at me, I'm about to impart wisdom. But I do believe that if you have guys that come into your clubhouse who won, who know what it takes to get through September and October, that's a win. Baltimore becomes interesting in that regard for me.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, I think the other thing that's going to be interesting is you're right. The Yankees aren't the same team without Judge. I mean, they've limped along. I think the records. I think they're above. I think they've won more than they've lost, but it's not by many. And you can completely tell that they're pitching to everybody else in the lineup. I mean, you take him out, and Rizzo slumping a little bit, Stanton slumping a little bit. They're a different team when he's in the game. He's in the lineup.
With a guy like that, there aren't many of them. It's like a Jenga. That game Jenga where you got to pull the boards out. Well, here's what happened: you pull the Aaron Judge stick out, and everything starts to wobble. Now, It hasn't totally collapsed yet, but you pulled out the linchpin, the base of, how is this thing going to stand or is it going to fall? So when you take him out for this period of time, you got to, it's swaying like this right now with decisions to be made even by their front office as to how they're going to try to attack this.
Right. Last thing before we let you go, tell me a little bit about what your prediction. Like I said, I think I like Braves and Rays if it hangs. Who do you like? Do the Rays do the Braves have more pitching, more experienced hitters? Manager. Who do you give the advantage to if we get to that for the World Series?
Yes, and yes. If Max Fried's got to come back, and he is actually throwing live BP, that's good. Kyle Wright coming back would be great. Michael Soroka threw yesterday. He threw a really nice game. That's the guy. He was a better pitcher, Rich. People kind of forget that Soroka was a little bit more highly regarded and in front of Max Fried when they both came up. So I think if you talk about that, that's trade deadline acquisitions. If you get two of those three guys, let alone three of them, you're in a much better place than a lot of other teams. My problem is, so here's the cynic in me. Here's the guy that's seen a little bit too much for his liking. The Mariners won 116 games. They don't win the World Series. The Bruins this year won 65 games, set an NHL record for points. Don't win the Stanley Cup.
Right, didn't win the Cup.
16-0 New England Patriots, 73-win Golden State Warriors. They don't win it all. Last undefeated basketball team in college, Kentucky, didn't win it all. So it's really hard to finish it. This Braves team, the good news is they've done it before. The manager's been there. You got guys like Darno and others, Austin Riley, who Ozzie Albies, to me, he's the key to the whole thing, just from an enthusiasm point of view. And obviously Ronald this year, if he stays healthy, you get a piece that you didn't even have in 21. The Braves are easily the odds-on favorite to win the World Series. Right. The problem is it doesn't always work that way. It's not they don't play it on paper. They play it in that little box called the TV.
Yeah. Well, I know whatever happens, you'll be there to give us the update, especially in Atlanta, and I'll have to get down there to see you again.
Come on, please do. Sorry we couldn't hook up.
Hey, man, listen, get back to the beach, kiss Miss Carrie and those kids, where we'll do it again soon.
All right, Reg. Listen, thanks to everybody. Really look forward to talking again when we do.
All right,
thanks,
Chris.
Reg. All right, see you, bud.
Bye.